On this episode of the Soul Twin Stars podcast.
You know, when you start using it more purposefully and more intentionally, just like anything else, just like, in witchcraft, everything is about, intent.
And I also wanted to know what the top 3 most powerful signs are, and if you could explain why or why not.
You just bring such a realness and authenticity to your readings. And I can't say enough about how wonderful it is to have known you all these years and seen you grow into this beautiful spiritual woman that has so much self-empowerment, and you have no fear.
I do a predictions video at the end of every single year.
Hi, I'm Lady Shadowe, a witch with much to share, stirring the cauldron with magical self-care.
Hi, I'm Peaceful Nik, a medium divine. I chat with the dead and interpret every sign.
We are Soul Twin Stars, best friends through it all.
From spells to healing, we're answering the call.
From moon cycles to menopause and making peace with the dead.
We aren't afraid to talk about what's rarely said.
So tune in each week to get raw, real, and wise.
Let's talk about a spiritual life with absolutely no disguise. Welcome to the Soul Twin Stars podcast, Uninhibited Spirituality. Peaceful Nik and Lady Shadowe here, and first and foremost, we would like to thank our sponsors for this episode. Thank you to Nadine Gordon-Taylor, intuitive artist, author, speaker, and teacher. She's also the visionary creator behind a series of soul-stirring oracle decks, including the Animal Love Oracle cards, the Heart Path Oracle, the Crystal Clear Oracle deck, and the highly anticipated Plant Spirits Oracle, arriving this fall of 2025. Her work blends mystical insight with artistic mastery, offering tools that inspire deep connection and inner wisdom. Explore Nadine's full collection at thethirdEyestudio.com or experience her magic in person at her beautiful Peekskill, New York storefront, The Third Eye Studio. To purchase her oracle decks, visit innertraditions.com. Thank you, Beans and Buttercream Bakery. Delicious homemade treats shipped anywhere. Call 417-973-2352. Also, Abernathy Photography, based in southwestern Kentucky, a professional and stellar company providing drone photography and destination weddings. Visit abernathyphotography.com. And author Mary Ray's self-reflection workbook on conquering shame and guilt. Tell the devil to go to hell. Get it now on Amazon. And craving delicious Italian cuisine? You can find it right here in Westchester County, New York, at Fino Restaurant at 1 Baltic Place, Croton-on-Hudson, New York. All of our sponsors are linked up on our Facebook page. And now, back to our episode. Welcome back to the Soul Twin Stars podcast. We are so excited for our guest today. But first of all, we want to thank you, our audience, for coming back and listening to us and hanging out with us an hour a week here on Spotify or Apple Music or iHeartRadio or wherever you may find us, YouTube, Facebook. We are so grateful for the audience that we are building, and we are hoping that the content we are putting out there is of interest to you all. It's entertaining, educational, and if you have any show ideas for us, please do not hesitate to contact us at soultwinstars@gmail.com. We are happy to take all kinds of requests per se for future episodes. And of course, if you want to be a guest on our show, same thing. Nik, how we doing out there?
I am doing fabulous. I'm so excited.
I'm so looking forward to tonight and our chat with Abi. But until then, it's me and you, like it should be, like it always was.
Is now and ever shall be, as we say.
BFFs forever and ever.
So I had the best Father's Day weekend. I know we had a great show last week, the Unfather's Day, Father's Day with a Mom. So if you didn't watch it, go back and listen to that one. And I went and visited my oldest son for his very first Father's Day and got to snuggle with my little baby granddaughter, and we got to do some nostalgic things, and it was the most incredible. It could not have been a more perfect weekend. My daughter-in-law was so gracious to welcome us into their home, and we just had a fantastic, wonderful Father's Day weekend.
I love that, because most of the time, I don't know that I could say it's always perfect like that. I mean, that's the dream. I'm so happy for you. I just did some local stuff here, like I was mentioning Poolin', chillin', hot tubbing. That's pretty much it. Nothing too exciting, but it's always a good week for me. I try to keep a optimistic attitude about life in general, even if the world gets me down, and that's all we can hope for everybody.
I pick wisely who I spend my time with. And so
Yes.
that's why I can have a great weekend because I make the conscious decision who I am willing to spend my time with. So anybody who wants to know how that works, just say no.
Amen. We don't say no enough. It's true. It's so true.
You don't have to explain yourself. Just say no, thank you.
I
That's
saw a meme yesterday that said, call those who call you, spend time with those who reach out to spend time with you, and love harder those who love you back. It was kind of cool.
that is
So,
incredible. That
yes,
is so,
priorities.
yeah, exactly. Priorities. It's good for your mental health because when you are spending time with people who are dysfunctional and draining you, it is so bad for you and causes so much damage to your mind and your body. We don't talk about that enough. That's for a future episode, how stress affects our body and the diseases it causes. So stay tuned for that. Speaking of future episodes, next week, in honor of Pride Month, we have the wonderful psychic Sean, or Auntie Sean, as he likes to be called. He is a psychic, a medium. He's a native New Orleans person. He's been working in psychic realms for 25 years. He is active in the LGBTQIA community, and I cannot wait to hear his story. And then a couple weeks after that, we have the incredible Eben Alexander, and we're going to be talking about near-death experiences. He's the author of the New York Times best-selling book. Stay tuned for that. You'll see it on all of our socials. So I am super excited about that.
I am so excited as well that for both of these guests. And we are so blessed to get these wonderful guests on to come and talk with us, especially for Pride weekend, having someone so significant be able to talk about their experiences. I'm openly bisexual myself. It wasn't too difficult as a woman to come out, even as a married woman who has permission to be who I am, but it still is stigmatized. So I can't wait to talk about that with him. And hopefully he has a beautiful and peaceful life now, since I know that he had his struggles with that prior to, becoming who he is fully.
Absolutely. And I cannot wait to talk to him. Tonight, we're talking a lot about astrology. And I think you have a story to share, an astrological experience.
Yeah, I'm not one of those people that religiously reads the horoscope every day. I don't subscribe to any of those emails like I know some people do. Do you do that, Nik? Do you listen to and read about your horoscope every day?
I listen to lots of YouTube channels about my horoscope. Yes. Yes.
Okay, so I mean, I think a lot of us do. I just particularly forget to tune into that. I think it's interesting. I revere it. And I think messages from beyond come from all types of places, whether through songs,
Yeah.
horoscopes, fortune cookies. Always
Yep.
watch the signs, right? And if we are if we're in our parasympathetic nervous system, which is the relaxed part of us, then we can receive so many of these signs throughout the day. And it's beautiful, right? So I was randomly back in the early 90s living in Los Angeles as a starving artist, a writer, an actress looking for work. And I wanted to get an internship somewhere or work in film, television, whatever. And I was at the grocery store one day and I picked up one of those little scrolls. Those were super popular in those days. The grocery, they're like $2.
Remember those? I love those.
Yes, yes. And that's sure that's going to come up in our interview too. I think a lot of people were inspired by those little scrolls, bought one and read it. And it was so accurate that it was uncannily eerie. It even talked about the struggle. It talked about where I was in my life. It talked about how a big opportunity was around the corner and to hang in there. And it's going to be life changing and steer me and my career into a direction that I may not have understood at the time. It would just be bigger and better than I could fathom. And I thought, this is pretty cool. Took it home, left it on my counter. And a week later, I was hired as an intern at Universal Studios on the backlot as a production assistant to work on a television show called The Animal Show that actually didn't get aired. But it was so cool because it happened 7 days later. Now, I don't know if that's me just tuning in as we all try to do when we're looking for something and super focused on it. But I thought it was very magical.
I love that. And I do listen to my astrology all the time on YouTube. I follow some great creators. But you mentioned um, fortune cookies, right?
Yeah.
I have on my desk, and I've had this for about 15 or 20 years. I went to a restaurant with my family and we had fortune cookies. And I have it, and I have put it in a frame immediately.
No way.
It says turn
Oh
your
my gosh.
says turn your scars into stars. And with my astronomy background and my scars emotionally, this really hit me like a ton of bricks. And I have kept it in this frame for all those years. And anytime I'm getting, feeling blue or down or discouraged, I look at that and I always remember every scar can be turned into a star. And I'm so glad you mentioned fortune
That's
cookies.
that's so ironic because you know who started that, getting me into that, was when I read the first Neil Donald Walsh book, which by the way, I would love to get him on our podcast and I'm working on it, everyone. He wrote a whole section about signs in some of his really early books, and it talks about the little ones like that, like in and I'll never forget, he's always read your fortune cookie. And I thought that is really good advice because you just want to get to the dessert, or you don't like them so you toss them aside. But why not read your fortune? It could just be something fun, or like you, life changing, and now you have something to look at and inspire you every day. And that's what it's all about, the little things in life that bring bigger thoughts and comforts and inspiration.
Absolutely. And anything that you believe is a sign, right? It's all in what you believe and what you perceive. And one of the reasons, and I want to mention this is very important, I watch my horoscope to inspire me. I watch these YouTube creators to inspire me because it's mine, for whatever reason, this year has been very positive, always uplifting, always encouraging. And you know what? Even if you don't believe in it, even if you think it's hokum, it makes me feel good and it gives me a positive outlook. And it's all about the outlook. It's all about your perspective and perception of your world. Yes,
Every minute of the day, we could use that little reminder of an uplift because, we are constantly faced with a decision to go into a negative mindset or a positive mindset, fear or love. All day long, we're choosing fear, love, right? So the littlest thing that can turn that around and stop us in our tracks and say, I'd rather go to the love, is a blessing.
exactly. And so astrology, what is astrology for those of you who don't know, which, some people may not know what astrology is. Now, my master's degree is in astronomy. That's the study of the science of the sun, the stars, the moon, the planetary bodies, the galaxy. Astrology is the metaphysical study of the sun, the moon, the planets, and how they affect us in our lives based on when we were born. And you can chart out not only your sun sign, but your rising sign, your moon sign, your fifth house, your seventh house. You can chart all of this out. There's all kinds of free apps online. You can put free app for my astrology birth chart, blah, 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 and put your birth date and time in, and it'll pop out all of your goodies. And so I know Lady Shadowe, I know she's a Scorpio. She's a Scorpio sun, but some people say that your rising sign is more accurate. Now, for me, I'm a Sagittarius sun and a Sagittarius rising. So to me, there's no difference. But you, according to this free app, you're a Scorpio sun, but a Capricorn rising.
So
So,
interesting.
so interesting. And your moon is Taurus. So it's this, according to this, your overall vibe is you're powerfully grounded and emotionally deep with an air of mystery and competence. Boy, that couldn't be more true. Um, it says,
Well, you would know. You have dated me for many years, though.
it says You may not open up easily, but once you do, you are deeply loyal, yes, check mark. Deeply supportive, yes, check mark, and dependable. And I will say, knowing you for all these years and knowing friends that have come and gone through your life, sometimes you're a little too loyal and dependable
Yeah,
because you love so deeply. You
I
love,
do. I'm very loyal. It's so true. It is
so-
to my detriment that I do give a lot of grace and probably too many chances.
yeah.
But then once you get to like chance number nine, forget it. I'm done. Like, I got to put you on the shelf. Like, I can't take it anymore.
And you know what the beauty of aging is? We're in our 50s. The beauty is we don't have to care
Exactly.
anymore. You either come with me, you evolve with me, or you go away. But you either evolve with us or your friendship dies, right?
Or you stop growing spiritually and emotionally right there. And then there's no room for more because you're just stuck in this linear physical world, which is just an illusion, which takes the depth out of the whole experience.
I always hope for depth and breadth in all of my relationships. I don't want to live in a three-dimensional world anymore. I live here physically, but emotionally and spiritually, I want to always continue evolving, always continue moving forward, always becoming better at whatever it is. I want the world to be a better place. I want to raise the vibration of the people around me as much as I can, but they have to be willing to do it.
Yeah, and you do, and you're a wonderful teacher for that. And I think us coming together, we are doing that collectively, hopefully one person, one show at a time. And you absolutely are another worker of light. And we are so blessed to be here today. It can be a beautiful place or it can be a terrifying place. And it's up to us to decide that and shift into the thinking that shows us the illusion that we wish to see and experience.
Exactly. And speaking of experiences, I am experiencing a Sagittarius sun, a Sagittarius rising, and an Aries moon. And it says, my overall vibe is a dynamic, high energy individual. Well, when I was 25, I had more energy. I'm 54 now,
You're
so
so dynamic still, Nick. Come on now.
maybe, but not high energy is what I'm saying. I like
sometimes
naps.
you, sometimes you are a little firecracker.
I
I
am
check in with you through
fiery.
the day. Yes, you are.
It says an individual who thrives on movement, novelty, and independence. Boy, that couldn't. I am the fiercest, most independent person. It says passionate, fun, and full of ideas, but may struggle with patience or sitting still. I am the least patient person on earth.
I'm the second most impatient person on earth as well. I have to really work on that every day. That's one of my things too. I feel you 100%.
And then it says there's a raw authenticity to them, and their fiery spirit makes them a magnetic leader and a loyal, if sometimes blunt friend. Boy, I've gotten in trouble for being blunt. And I will tell people the truth, whether it might sound like it's hurtful, but I just want to help people. Like if I see somebody being damaged by someone else, I'm going to tell them. If I see someone damaging themselves, I'm going to tell them. And I try to say it kindly.
That is you and I's absolute where we meet the mark together in our personalities, that we are truth tellers. We are
Yes.
100% truth tellers and we aren't afraid of it. And we will take the consequences of being truth tellers in order to stay authentic to ourselves and what we need to get out. People don't grow without some sort of kind confrontation, right? So I feel like it's my duty to say something. If it's a burning desire in your gut to say something to someone, it has to be done because it's for everybody's growth.
And I will say, with my age has come some wisdom. Now, I will tell people the truth, but I have learned as I age that sometimes I ask myself, what is the purpose of me saying this? Is this for me or for them? I used to say in my 20s and 30s and into my 40s things to people that were to benefit me and my ego. Now, I am trying very hard to move away from that. So I can still be blunt, I can still be honest, but sometimes some things are not said by me because It's for me and not for them. And I really am trying to be wiser and more discerning.
I love that. I think we all struggle with that. We all, through our relationships, whether it's a spouse or a friend, because relationships don't work unless they are authentic, right? And that authentic communication, even if it is for us, I don't think that that's something that we should run away from. You know how many friends telling us every 3 minutes how they feel, right? And we take it like champs. So there's always room for self improvement on either side. And just don't be afraid to be your authentic self. That's the most important thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. Authenticity is important and discernment also. And as
Proper discernment. Yes.
proper discernment, and as Mel Robbins says, let them.
Yes. I love Mel. We got to get her on here too. Can't wait for that day. So, Nik, are you ready?
I'm ready.
So, what do we have on deck, Nik?
Today we have the Cannastrologer, Abi Wright. We've been friends for over 20 years, and she is an award-winning leader, natural healer, intuitive guide, specializing in astrology, tarot, and plant medicine. She has a lifelong devotion to the esoteric arts. She weaves together spiritual insight and grounded wisdom to help clients find clarity, purpose, and alignment. Through offerings like astrological guidance, intuitive tarot readings, and spiritual business coaching, Abi supports individuals on their journey toward growth, empowerment, and deeper connection with themselves, their purpose, and the universe. Welcome, Abi. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you. It's so great to be here. What an honor. I'm so happy to see you doing this right now, and excited to be here and meet Lady Shadowe.
What a journey it's been for all of us, because I've known Lady Shadowe since 1991 or two, and I met you in 2004 in Savannah. And so I've lived all across the country, and I am so grateful for all of the wonderful connections, long time connections I have made with all of these spiritual people before I even knew I was going to go into the spiritual realm. So I'm so excited to have you here. So, can you share your journey? How did you become the Cannastrologer? Tell us your background, what led you to this.
Oh man, I know we only have an hour. So
That's what I was telling Lady Shadowe. Abi can talk. She can tell a lot of
yeah,
stories.
we can talk for sure. So my journey technically started way back when I was, I don't know, 13 years old. I mean, I technically started when, I started here on this planet, but I was raised, with a Christian family. And when I was 13 years old, my mom gave me the choice of whether or not I wanted to continue going to church. And I chose not to, not because I was against anything. It was because I was a very busy child that was in tons of events every single day, including Saturdays and sometimes Sundays too. And I needed a day for myself. And this is all important because, then by age 15, I got into plant medicine, basically, trying out cannabis. But it was interesting, and also psilocybin too. But it was interesting because cannabis was the only thing that actually made me feel like I was normal amongst my friends. And I know that, initially everybody says, cannabis is something that relaxes people and makes you feel loose and good and happy and those types of things. But it made me feel like I could, for the first time ever, just like step out and be myself. And so fast forward, I literally, went into my adulthood taking jobs. Fast forward to Savannah, Georgia, where I met you, Nik. And, it was great because, yeah, the whole connection with the spirituality thing. I've always been spiritual my entire life. The moment that my mom told me that I didn't have to go to church was the moment that I went to the local 7-Eleven and picked up one of those little scrolls.
We were literally just talking about those.
It's called something. I forget what they were called, but that literally was my first memory, my first recollection of horoscopes and zodiac, and it entranced me because I'm a Scorpio. I'm a super Scorpio, come to find out. And
so is Lady Shadowe, girl, soul
I
sisters.
love it. I love it. So, and then, then that got me into, I read the newspaper and would read the comics, and you see the horoscopes in the newspaper. And so, and that actually is what kind of enticed me into media and writing and things like that. But also, So fast forward, and it's by this point, I'm living out in Las Vegas here, 2008. And I eventually, by I think around 2018, somewhere around there, I'm working in the cannabis industry at this point in media communications. And I'm having trouble focusing. So my friend gives me some Adderall, and I'd never used it before. He's like certified genius. So I was like, well, if it works for him. And he just gave me a little quarter of the thing. And that was the most productive 24 hours of my life that I've ever had. But it freaked me out because I knew that if it was working for me for what it needed to be working for, then there was clearly something wrong, per se.
Mhm.
And so I went and went through a series of doctors that eventually led me to a neurologist, went through a series of tests, and was ultimately late diagnosed as high functioning autistic with ADHD.
I'm going to ask you about ADHD. Sorry to interrupt,
Go.
because a lot of teenagers who stay on marijuana for a long time have ADHD, and it helps them function more normally in their estimation.
Yeah. I mean, it has for me. In fact, when I was diagnosed, the doctor literally said, the neurologist literally said, okay, he goes, so you're clearly on the spectrum. He goes, how have you been surviving
Mm,
the entire time? Use that word. And I said, surviving? I mean, that's when I realized this was a lot more serious than just, oh, this
right.
is the result. It's a thing. Oh my God. And I've been living with it my entire life. So, and I told him, I said, well, cannabis. He said, can you talk to me more about that? And he goes, I can't. And I said, well, why not? We've been legal since 2013 medically, if you want to get technical. And he goes, well, I wasn't trained in that type of medicine.
Right.
And you know what? That is a fair answer. But I had to take his diagnosis. I mean, I had to take his prescriptions in order to accept the diagnosis. I never filled the prescriptions. I didn't need them. I didn't go to the doctor to get antidepressants and some, oxycodone. I needed focus. But what I guess I really needed in that moment was answers. And that's what I got, was answers. And so from that moment, I took that diagnosis, and I went and I got my medical card. And I was already working in the industry, but it was at this time, and I was already, practicing, tarot, and well into my world of astrology. I was doing readings for my friends. And then by 2020, that's when COVID hit, and I started doing more and more readings for people outside of my general sphere. And that's kind of how the Cannastrologer came about. Just somebody kind of dubbed me the Canna Tarot Witch. I got a website at that time, but then it was 2020 when I really started putting myself out there, which was helpful, perfectly timed with COVID.
Mhm.
And people needed that the most. And really since then, what we've been experiencing is age of awakening, and getting into astrology and all of that. But that's where we're at now, working as a spiritualist and a spiritual guide with my own practice. And it's interesting how that's developing. But yeah, you often see me at events, doing readings and just helping people get through the daily grind. And that's kind of my story in a nutshell.
We are going to talk about in a future episode the fact that we are overfed, undereducated, and over medicated. And doctors just want to give you a pill. They don't want to hear about natural remedies because they're not making any money off of the natural remedies.
Right.
They're always against holistic medicine or any kind of natural remedy. It's always about pill, pill, pill. Some
Right.
things are appropriate for, some things they're not appropriate for. So we
Well,
will talk about that more.
yeah, the doctors aren't being paid by the cannabis companies.
Right. And if
That,
they were, they'd be prescribing it left and right as
sorry,
well.
listen, we're going to see that changing here shortly too. But that, like you said, that can be a whole nother episode.
Right.
Thank you, Abby, for sharing with us your personal journey with your diagnosis and how it came about. That must have been really hard, especially being a teenager and trying to navigate, hey, what's wrong? Why do I feel this way? And why do I feel better when I do this and when I feel worse doing this? And there has to be a better bridge between the allopathic medicine world and homeopathic. And I would consider cannabis under the homeopathic world. And sometimes we do have to listen to our bodies and go inward and kind of say, well, what is working for us first and foremost? And then when we can visit our doctor, which of course, advocating that everybody do before they make a giant move on diagnosing themselves or treating themselves in some way. But we do have to listen to ourselves and our bodies and figure out what works. Also, taking matters into your own hands and going out and consuming, large amounts of alcohol just because it's accepted and it's accessible. Alcohol, versus pot. I mean, there's this whole argument there, right? But we already know that that our cannabis has medicinal properties. Alcohol, on the other hand, has very few medicinal properties, other than maybe the resveratrol in red wine, the antioxidants you might get from that. But overall, marijuana is so stigmatized, and that pains me because through the years, CBD has helped me tremendously with some of my conditions. And alcohol is just put on a pedestal. It's been around so long and it's so accepted that it's just not a big deal. But marijuana is the end of the earth.
Alcohol, the teachers could be drunk all weekend long. The students could be drunk all weekend long. But boy, you smoke one puff of one joint, you got kicked out of those schools. And it was
unbelievable.
Lettuce. That's why.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the devil's lettuce. That's right. And it is in alcohol. I've heard one doctor say the opposite of this, and I don't know where he got his medical degree, but alcohol is far, 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 far worse for your body than marijuana in moderation, by far, far, far. I will believe that till the day I die, but marijuana is much easier on the body than alcohol.
It fulfills our cannabinoid system. If you want to get technical, every single human has an endocannabinoid system. And just like every human, we're not all the same.
Yep.
Our systems work differently. Some of our systems are not fulfilled in the same ways. Our receptors don't work in the same ways. And that's based on, external, but also internal differentials. And all of that can be balanced out by supplying your endocannabinoid system with the correct amount of cannabinoids. Where do you get those cannabinoids from? You can get it in some foods and specific diets, but you also get it in, guess what? Cannabis, cannabinoids, cannabis. That's exactly what it is. And so it is a medicine. And I will say that after my diagnosis, and on a spiritual level, I've been using it, just as long since I was a kid, to connect to, higher enlightenment, so to speak, right? When you start using it more purposefully and more intentionally, just like anything else, just like, in witchcraft, everything is about, intent, it not just witchcraft and spirituality. It's all about intent. It was life-changing for me, but that's when I went from just being a regular old advocate to an actual medical advocate.
You're right. Some people need more. Some people need less.
Yep.
And you're absolutely right that it all works together. The fact that we have this in us already, and then there's a nature's way to balance that. And only we can recognize that by being our own advocate. The fact that when something does work for you, then you're just a little short, like you were saying. So thank you so much for clarifying and for sharing all of your awesome information and your personal story. I just wanted to switch gears a little bit and talk about astrology, because I don't get to talk to an astrologer too often. I would love to know, most importantly, how accurate the archetypes are in the zodiac according to the horoscope. And I also wanted to know what the top 3 most powerful signs are, and if you could explain why or why not.
So this is kind of a loaded question. It's so funny that you're saying this, because I was just like reading and researching a conversation kind of similar to this, like literally just 3 days ago. I'm not going to say that it's just 3 signs that are the most powerful. I'm actually going to include a 4th, because the fixed signs, and the fixed signs are the signs of Scorpio, Leo, Aquarius, and Taurus. The reasoning behind this is because they're fixed. They don't change their minds. They don't change their ways very often, their thoughts of thinking. When they do something, it's very specific and with purpose. Now, of those 4, the two top ones I would probably say are the most influential when it comes to spirituality. Scorpio is going to be number one. And that's because we rule the eighth house, which is all about spirituality, transformation, the metaphysical. But that can also be argued with Pisces in the 12th house. I'd actually say Taurus would be the second most powerful. And Taurus is on the complete opposite of the wheel from Scorpio. It's kind of like the balancing yin and yang effect between the two. A lot of people don't necessarily look at Taurus as being as spiritually gifted as they actually are, but they're all about stability. And where Scorpio craves stability, that's one of the biggest things that we look for. It's because we don't have and that's because Scorpio is always transforming, and so we're always kind of in a state of chaotic flux. And so it's like what the one sign, opposite sign lacks, the other one has, and that's why they kind of balance each other out. And that's why I say Taurus and Scorpio, but we're fixed signs. So we again, we don't change our mind. We're steadfast in our thoughts, beliefs, morals, ethics, and all of those things. And that's what makes us powerful when we stand in that power.
In general, do you find that almost every person that you've come across, whether for a reading, family, friends, do you think that they completely almost always match up with their sign and their traits?
Yes and no. So yes, when I know a person's sun sign, I can pick out general characteristics that match that sun sign. But really what makes up a person's characteristics, personalities is more their moon sign, their ascendant, rising sign, and even Venus and Mars have a big, all of the placements have a part into what makes up a person's unique personality and natal birth chart, right? Your sun sign is, to me, it's kind of like if you look at a birth chart, is like a bullseye, playing darts. And your sun sign is kind of just like where that first dart landed. And that's your generalized characterization of just where you landed on the 365 day of the wheel. First off, 365 days in a year, time is not even a real thing, right? But when we're putting it together like that, that's where you were placed. Then the sun sign is the outward idea of how a person is. Then the moon sign is all about how a person feels from the inside, how you feel about yourself, how you feel you represent yourself outward to the world. And then you've got your rising ascendant sign, and that's how people actually look at you. To me, it's not just a moon sign. I love getting actual people's charts so I can learn a little bit more about you're a Leo 10th house, so that makes a lot of sense. You're very professional, or you stand out amongst the crowd at work or something like that. People who have strong 12th house are very deep and mystical. These are all things that you kind of just piece together, but you learn all of that the more you learn astrology.
The other day, somebody was asking me what my birthday, sun sign, moon sign, and that it isn't just about the birthday itself. It is about the time that you're born.
Yep.
And the houses that you're in. And it goes one layer, then another layer deeper, another layer deeper. But then everything she said really did match up specifically as you went deeper. So you have to have those details in order to go deeper, I assume, when you're doing your reading then.
It goes way deeper, all the way down to the degrees of where you fall within the houses. So when you pull and compile a real true natal chart or birth chart, the way I've always explained it, it's kind of like your astrological thumbprint, because everybody's thumbprint is unique from each other's. And there's no two thumbprints that are the same, right? Same thing with a natal chart. Because even if you have almost all the same placements, they're not all at the same degree. And that can sometimes make a huge difference, especially if it falls at the beginning or at the end of the house. So
I have a question. You just made me think of something. So let's say two babies are born at the same hospital at the same time. Are there any studies that you are aware of that look at those people and see how similar did they come out when they're adults?
There's a kid that was born in the same hospital, same day as me. My mother, his mother, were in the same hospital room going into labor, but then they separated them as they were having us. We grew up at different ends of town. He went to one middle school, I went to a different middle school, and then we ultimately went to high school together. What was funny is that in our junior high schools, he became the high school or the junior high school president of his class. I became the junior high school president of my class. We were both presidents together. And so it was one of those things that we, kind of joked about, laughed about.
And I want to say that I listen to the Cannastrologer's YouTube channel every time she posts. I'm Sag, so I always listen to the Sagittarius. Um, and they're always spot on, like uncannily spot on. So please, please, please watch her YouTube channel. It's at the Cannastrologer. They're amazingly accurate. And I love that you do music and you have a playlist and you have them on shuffle because I love music too. And it's awesome that you have that added in there.
Thank you.
You just bring such a realness and authenticity to your readings. And I can't say enough about how wonderful it is to have known you all these years and seen you grow into this beautiful spiritual woman that has so much self-empowerment and you have no fear.
I appreciate that, even though that is so not true. But
Well, we all have some fears, but you're not afraid to do what you believe in.
I thank you for that. I credit my autism to that, actually. I feel like I've just, for a large part of my life, I went naively through the world, just, kind of doing what I was told to do and, be the best person that you can be and don't hurt other people and, live, intentionally. And that's what I did. And the whole fear part, there's a lot of things that I fear, but I've learned that if you face them, you get the results that you're looking for 9 times out of 10 than you would by not facing them at all. So there's,
I love that you're both Scorpios and I'm a Sag, and I always get along with Scorpios. I know, Lady Shadowe, you're the third. What is your date, your birth date, Abby? I can't remember.
oh, she's a November Scorpio. Okay. I'm October Scorpio. So I'm the 27th at the end of the month.
Okay. All right.
My aunt is a Halloween Scorpio, born on the 31st.
Love it.
But I had one more question for you.
Okay.
And yes, Nicole is completely right. I love that you are so aware and awake. I've really enjoyed talking to you today. Can you maybe project, or if you've already done this with a chart, kind of where our world is headed in the next maybe 6 months? Do you have any calculations about the general state of the world? Because people always want to ask when they get a psychic on or an astrologer on, hey, what's in it for the world in the next 6 months? So if you can answer that for us, that'd be amazing if you give us any kind of insight on that.
Sure. I do a predictions video at the end of every single year where I tap into the energies of the upcoming full moons of the upcoming year. And it's like a 3-hour spread. This year, it took me 3 hours to do. But then each month that goes along through my readings, which Nicole was talking about, I break it down and I go through each sign and each of the readings and how the energies of that upcoming full moon are going to affect that specific sign. Okay. So, and I have kind of tapped into the next 6 months. Now, it kind of depends on like what you're talking about, how general or that you're looking at, because we're in the United States. There's a lot of things going on in the United States, but there's a lot of stuff going on in the economy around the world and other places too. That's why I like to use the moons as my guide points, because the moon affects everything around the world. So that's going to be kind of like a general theme around the world for that full moon. For July, for instance, it's all about being a cosmic radio, like free, like transmitter. And so it's going to be a lot of people tapping in and becoming like cosmic connections, like a radio transmission. A lot of people are going to be tapping in. August, it's all about survival of the fittest and adapting to change. So in August, I am predicting some big changes, and that's all because of South Node Aries in the 7th house energy. Will be coming out of Mercury retrograde at that time too, and that's probably why. And then September, it's all about being a rebel without a cause. So yeah, definitely August, September are feisty looking months. October is all about the emotional Sherlock Holmes. And so very mysterious energy, which is on point, for the month of October. We're talking about, the thinning of the veil, or when the veil is the thinnest. And there's going to be a lot of things I feel intuitively that, it's kind of like, the Wizard of Oz, pulling back the curtain and seeing the man behind the curtain. I feel like there's going to be a lot of those moments during the month of October. November is talking about being an emotional chameleon. So being very go with the flow with, what transpires and what's found out. And December is going to be wrapping up with being a true romantic at heart, which is a great way to end the year. I feel like it's going to be about love and collaboration and coming together, and healing is going to be a big theme of that. So those are my predictions based on the astrology that I've already done. If anybody's interested in the predictions videos or readings, they can just reach out to me and I'll send them that link.
Super helpful. That answers my question. I was very curious when Nicole invited you on. I thought, good. I want to get some juicy stuff for what we're in for, and I think our audience likes that too. That's awesome. Thank you.
For sure.
So tell us, what are you offering for services? And we will link all of your contact information in the show notes for everyone to find you everywhere.
Absolutely. So I do offer personal readings. My personal readings start at 20 to 30 minute, readings, all the way up to hour-long readings. I just actually launched my very first course. It's the Soul Mastery Alignment course, and it's a 3-month program. All of this is going to be posted on the CANNABIS-Babes.com / the Cannastrologer. And you'll be able, when you go onto my page on the site, you see all of my services. It gives you a description of what each reading is. You can pick and choose, do you want a 30-minute love reading? Do you want a 30-minute general energy reading? Because I can base it on what it is that you're looking for. But what I'm really excited about is this 3-month course, the Soul Mastery Alignment. You get a little bit of everything, where you get scheduled readings every single month, and it's 75 minutes. So it's real in depth. You're able to ask questions, get feedback, get clarification. Then I also offer a whole bunch of other things. There's a workshop, there's guidebooks, plant medicine. I talk about moon cycles, worksheet that helps you plan out professional calendar and things like that as well. And then there's also a ritual kit that you get sent that includes a ritual candle and a crystal, and just some fun tools that people use for manifestation and meditation and grounding, which I also include information on that as well. And so all of that information is on the CANNABIS-Babes.com / the Cannastrologer. I will make sure that you have all of that information. And I'll even make sure to include a special affiliate code or code in there to give your audience like a discount.
That sounds fantastic. Thank you, sweetie. I am so happy you were here. I love that we had this wonderful discussion, from plant medicine to tarot to astrology and all of the services you provide. We are all helping lift the veil a little at a time, but it will be impactful overall. Thank you so very much, Abi.
Thank you for having me. It was really an honor. I appreciate you both.
Yeah, such a great time with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us this episode for the Soul Twin Stars podcast. Find us on our podcast Facebook page for Magical Mondays live at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, where we will help you magically slay your weekdays, and for awesome giveaways. For more information about what other spiritual things Nick and I do and offer, visit peacefulnikthemedium.com. That's Nick with just a K. Or to connect with me, Lady Shadowe, soulsandspirits.com is the place to go. If you want to be a guest on one of our shows, we would absolutely love that. Contact us at soultwinstars@gmail.com. See you next Friday at 6 on Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Apple Music, Facebook, and on YouTube. Sending you all so many blessings. Thank you so much for joining us, and until next time, know that you are all cherished.